And so Anna Krupenberg from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, is here to entertain us. Hopefully not with tales of
Ready to talk votes. I have a bit of a ad hoc presentation based on pictures with a little video along the way. Try not to make it too long. What we hope to be doing well and what we can try and do well is have a lot of fun with this stuff and show people how much fun we're actually having. I started my business as a solar panel installation outfit, and my motto is kind of plug into the sun. And I'm now lucky enough that where I live in Amsterdam, I kind of live on the water, which works well with the boat stuff, and I have this view, and every day there's different sun and cloud interplay, and every time it keeps showing me how the sun is right beyond our electricity masts and poles. And I don't think it's going to pause for me, so I'll kind of go through it quickly. Anyways, and it just really gives me that visual of how the sun can power actually everything we want to do and give us a key to free, guilt-free pleasure out on the water or out on the road or wherever we want to go with this great new technology. I really wanted to build a boat. I grew up in Holland, but my mother's from Point Pleasant, New Jersey, and we spent a lot of time there going water skiing. And that's where my passion for boats came from. But in Holland, we never really had boats because, as Jack said, you need money for boats, and that was in short supply. But then at a certain point, I was gonna become a father, and you want to recreate some of that coolest stuff from your own youth. And so I really had this burning desire to go get a boat and do it. But I'm also running a solar panel outfit, so how can I go out on a lake and burn 44 liters of benzina, our gas, and feel good about myself and have my son enjoy it the way I used to. So I figured I needed to team up and put something electric in it and see if we could recreate the pleasure out on the water, electric style, and feel good about ourselves and maybe even have something to show for the future. We have a little workshop in Amsterdam that I was able to get from the solar business, although we really don't do any solar there. It's just big enough to put one boat and some tools into it. So it was always planned to have this be the shop where we can build the stuff. Here's out front before we had the sign. You see the boat there. I'll tell you at the end that we do actually have this little secret car project. Anyways, but we were going to talk about boats. How do three guys think that just for wanting to build an electric boat, how do they think they can actually do it? I mean, we didn't, you can't really go to school for this stuff yet. The parts are too new, and who's going to write the book and then teach the book, and then 8 years later you can finally build something, and the new thing's been around for 7 years. So what are you doing, guys? Well, this is why we thought we can build an electric speedboat. Because I got to tell you, in the last 2.5 years, the amount of EVTV shows I've seen comes up to easily over 315 hours. That means that if I put that in a 3-month course of full-time 8-hour days, I've spent over 3 months with Professor Rickard telling me how the stuff works and the stuff goes together. And it's the newest stuff, the stuff that wouldn't have made it into the book because you basically couldn't buy it since last week. And having seen how you can put these things together and work on the road, I thought, well, hey, play with high voltage, get liquid up and take it on a lake. Yeah, okay, that's gonna work. So, I want to thank you for that very much. And so we decided to put it into the boat. And I've got a little shots of how it looks. So here's the cost of 11, and it's under the soliton. And it all fits nicely into the block space of the 4-cylinder motor. Here's the original unconverted on the left. It has an empty gas tank, as poor people always do, and it's kind of sticking up in the nose. And you see the one on the right, how perfectly straight in the water she is. I don't really have the waterline picture here, but she's balanced exactly that where you put your anti-fouling. On a calm day, she's exactly in the waterline. When my tank's empty, those electrons don't weigh too much, so I still have that perfect balance going on. So here's some shots and having the beers and doing the first couple of runarounds to town. having a good show. All looks nice. These are on the magnetic sites as well. I was really pleased that they liked our work enough to show off on their front site. You know, taking the boat into town, just to go back really quickly. Now this is sweet. This is where you're cruising around through town. People don't see you coming. You're kind of like, oh, that's so nice. Generally these boats, just to give you the thing, they're 70s boats. They still make so much noise. They haven't been packed in like the more modern boats. So that means you basically have to have a big anchor tattoo and a flat cap and loud music going to kind of pull off the image, right? And we don't have all of that, so now that we have a nice quiet boat, it really works very well. What I haven't really shown on the YouTube stuff yet is technically like what's really in there, and obviously for this crowd, not showing that would be a crime. So we have, we originally bought 95 90 amp hour cells, because at that time for the software version of Glastron, having 95 in series was really pushing the limit of your voltage after charge that you could have to then immediately go. Even though I wanted to really have all 95 in there, it turned out that in all practical reality, getting 90 cells in really worked a lot better for us. Volume and space-wise, but also because the one thing that we're doing that's maybe a little bit different than how the packs on the road are being built is that we want to conform to the guideline where if you take high voltage on the water that you're able to break it down into packs of 50 volt. 50 volt being supposedly the limit that when you're holding something, when you're spasming, you can still kind of let go. And so we have 6, but now only 5 contactors that are there to break the pack. Then we have the last contactor that when the pack is together, we let it talk to, or let the electrons flow to, the controller, charger, DC-DC converter. I kind of call that last contactor my sacrificial contactor because if I, in an event of rolling over or anything, I want to do, break the soliton so the power goes away, but whether or not that happens, then I break the sacrificial contactor, because hopefully you can break it if the soliton didn't. And at the very last, then the pack gets broken into pieces. On the one hand, some people have said, well, hey, you're introducing some extra failure points. From all I kind of know is that if contactors fail, they're more likely to fail on than off. So I'm glad I have a couple extra that could go off, and as long as one makes it, we got some stuff broken into separate pieces, and if we're lucky, they're all 50 volt pieces. One thing that really made a huge difference for us, next to Jack having shown us how things work, is that when you get your parts in, if you have any chance at all, I can tell anybody who hasn't done this yet, if you can make everything work on the table, you're really doing yourself the biggest pleasure at all, because I needed to stick my little voltmeter in, I had to have my clamp meter to start to understand how this stuff talks together and works. And once we had everything on the table and working, I got a feeling that if I get it into the boat and something doesn't work, I have kind of an idea where to poke and what to think, and if it was all in there all at once, I'd probably have to take the boat apart just to figure out what was going on if it didn't work. So part-wise, we have a high voltage cost of 11 that do 250 volt max and 5500 RPM. 5500 RPM is what the original B20 block that I took out did. So I knew that if I could match that RPM, that my whole stern drive propeller setup would still be giving the same kind of performance that the boat was actually designed for, the same speed range and that kind of thing, if I could match the HP and torque. Well, we all know that I can do twice the torque and 1.5 times the HP, maybe not as long, but we've got it. We have the EVCCON PFC 5000. You know, we're blessed with 240 service, and I have 3 times 240 at the shop at 30 amps and 3 times 240 at 25 at home. And even though the EVCCON officially says it has a peak rating of 30 amps, it does never trips my 25 amp breaker at home. So just if you know, you can actually kind of use it that way. We have a very cheap DC-DC converter that's never broken, only costs $200 and does 53 amps. It's the Meanwell, or labeled Acme with Evolve Electrics. It's the Meanwell. I definitely still want to talk to some people if this is actually a good product, but it delivers 53 amps and works for us. Let's see if that's the cost. You know, definitely get on with the crimpins and stuff. Thanks Matt Halber for some crimpin instruction videos online. I definitely enjoyed those and enjoyed playing with this a lot. So here, you know, we're at the shop getting the whole beast working on the table. For 1980s TV watchers, if you know Knight Rider, there's an episode where kids fall out on the table. She's alive, but she's not in the car. That's kind of what it felt like to us. This is my bottom balancing battery workstation. I have the PowerLab 8 after Jack shows us PowerLab stuff, and I take my cells in 5 series. Let's see, oh no, we're getting to the adapter coupler studies there. Anyway, so I bottom balance them there. I've got all the graphs on the computer. I can go back and see which cell, after I do the 5 series, if one goes to 2.8, I take them all separate. And then I can see later in all my data which cell had the least power and the most, that kind of thing. So it's kind of nice to get back into. So we're in the shop. There was only really one thing that we had to develop ourselves. Basically, I don't design anything. I buy other people's products, I put the boxes together in maybe a new package, and then it just works. But for our coupler setup, there wasn't a standard adapter plate yet because they had really been converting speedboats. There's a few builder speedboats, but they have no really converters yet. So we needed to get a good adapter plate and a good coupler that would do the amount of power and torque and RPMs that we were talking about. And for me, who doesn't know anything about metalwork, it's kind of hard to explain to the guy that I wanted a thing which I've never seen and don't know how it works, and he's never made it, and it could have been cheap, please, and could have done all these things. So I went to a guy in the States, EV Coupler Connection, Charlie, who really helped me out. I sent him a damper plate that had originally bolted to the flywheel of the V8 block that would work with the Volvo Pentas. He took out the damper plate and mounted it on a coupler for me. And so we retained the springiness, it's recessed in there. So there's a little bit of forgiving. It's a really nice piece of work. He only charged me $350 for it. I sent the damper plate, it got sent back. I really can't praise him enough for that. We're very happy with it. He says he makes these also for drag racing applications, and it'd be quite comfortable for them to go up to the more like 700 horsepower range. Over the whole thing, we really wanted to beef up our coupler adapter. We're doing a relatively small boat to start with, but we wanted to be able to scale for the whole range of applications that Volvo Penta stern drives are generally installed in. So the bell housing you see coupled to our adapter plate here is one that is still off the shelf available. It generally bolts the V8 Ford blocks that then couple to a stern drive in the Volvo Penta system. The bell housing is part of your water seal. So you see the 2 rubber rings, the interior rubber rings inside of the boat, the outside of the boat is the other, and then it clamps in. That also means that my whole motor, through the adapter plate, bell housing, and then out to the stern drive, has a kind of liquid heatsink going. Now, I don't think that's really helping us with flash heat at high power, but when we do long cruises through the canals and we have low RPMs and not a lot of airflow, we have the extra cooler, but that heat over time really feels like it's also going through our aluminum. Anyways, all that stuff that's touching the water and conducts heat, it's really working out. This is the area of the boat where it all has to fit in. We were so blessed and happy and lucky to find out that with the dimensions of everything we're using, we could get stuff in there, all in the original motor mounts on rubber, all clamped in the back with the bell housings in the rubber. So we're, the vibrations as they are there are separated from the boat. Works really well, and we can use all the original support members. So now again, if somebody says I have either the 4-cylinder or the 6-cylinder, I know sight unseen that I can get a motor and a controller in the area of the block. I can get about 1/3 of my batteries in the area of your gas tank, and I can convert to the little kiddie seats to more like chaise longue, kind of like a couch deal, which are more comfortable than the original. I can get the rest of my batteries in there. I had to fool around a little bit with, on the table with my high voltage distribution board. So on the red side there, we come in from the back, we've got our fuse. I was really happy to see with the fuse thing that having the AQ5400 for our application seems to be the right dimensions. Yay for us. That's the last sacrificial contact, and then it goes up to the controller, but also down to the DC-DC converter and the charge leads, which have their own fuses, and that has been confirmed to be a good idea. And then on the negative side, we've got our other fuse and the shunt for the JLB404. Things get, not as neat real quick. Kevin's making our dashboard stuff. Kevin does all our wooden fabrication. Like if something needs to fit and look nice and work and that kind of thing, Kevin does all that stuff. Ray does all the metal. I talk a lot. This is our shop again. Okay, so hey, this is my combination prepare bottom balance run in motor setup. We're going to take 5 series blocks of the lithiums and I hang them onto the motor. And you can do all this other stuff, and you get that RPM drop, and then you know, hey, that's your audible cue that that little set of 5 has gone down a bit, and put its free electrons that you get from Mr. Winston when you buy them in China into the motor, and this helps heat the brushes, and then you put them onto the neck, so you don't have to have alarms, that kind of thing, as long as you're doing something within the audible range. It worked out actually really nicely. This is a view of the brush setup in the Kostov. Tom Brunk was like, I see some, it's at an angle. I was like, what are these guys in Bulgaria doing? Well, hey, I don't make motors, I don't really know. I mean, things kind of working for us, but it's definitely probably room for improvement. I'm interested to find out like what kind of brushes these are, if we can do something with springs and get even more power out. Well, that's for later. This is an inspection crew, my 2-year-old son kind of taking a look. It's kind of like vague now, but you can see that what we had here was light brown. What we have there is that dark chocolate thing. I think I put at least 250 hours in seating that stuff. Now, that was in part because I was using the motor as a drainer for my battery, so it just takes time. You have a lot of cells, and it takes a lot of time. But also, I knew, everybody was saying to me, dude, the power you want to put through there, and what customers are said to do, man, you're going to melt stuff in no time. So I'm thinking, well, if I at least seat it really well, maybe, you know, I can get the power there, and extra cooling, and let's just do it, you know, so, okay. This is how we were making our battery boxes. I make battery boxes right now because I didn't want to put a lot of money in it, which we didn't have anyways, and find out you had to do it different. So this is what we call, the wood we call betonplex. It's like double waterproof treated, but it's still basically wooden boxes, and you put your stuff in there. And I have temperature readers in all my battery boxes for the prototype version. I wanted to see, like, am I making stuff hot? Do I need to insulate for cooling? Which way are we going here? Later in the water, we finally got the water cooling into the soliton. I gotta say, the first couple of weeks without the water cooling, everything was really fun for 15 minutes, and we were hitting thermal deratings and thinking, a $3,000 controller is 85 degrees again. How long is this gonna be good? So we finally got the line, how do we, anyways, that D5 pump, that's really cool. It came out of a PC overclocker system, and just basically stuck it in there, and it has like a little radiator off to the left there that's, you know, PC overclocker speaks all like GTF, Stealth Force, Ultra, yada yada, but they really seem to work very well. We never go above 55 anymore, temperature-wise, and the boat's a new beast. Now at any time, it has that power. We do use a 12-volt battery to assist with the DC-DC conversion side. We've got 4 40-amp-hour Synopolis, which were actually, they came labeled as 10.8-volt 44 milliamp batteries. Kind of said in the picture like, dude, so you know what you sold me? Is that? But I tested them. They're not what they say. They are actually 48-amp-hour Synopolis cells. All of them have 20% more capacity than they sold us. So that's really kind of cool. So hey, yeah, on my 12-volt side, I have 40-amp-hour cells battery, and I have a 53-amp-hour DC-DC converter. My normal range on the 12-volt side is between 14 and 25 amps. But I do have a big music system, and I want to have some, you know, maybe like a microwave and maybe a fridge and that kind of thing in the future. So we've got some capacity. I did want to do a little extra measuring dashboard stuff, especially when we're still out the boat. You know, I mean, I was on board with the, don't fool around with, I was going to say the other F word, don't fool around with the batteries too much, but, you know, you want them in the bottom, you want to know where they are, and I thought, well, if I have these discrete units of under 50 volts, wouldn't it be really cool if you would have a line and you'd have this immediate view of where what is different, that kind of thing. And this is also where it starts to be smarter to have so many blocks of 15 and not the other one block of 5 at the end. And Kevin really wasn't looking forward to making another little box of where was that going to fit. So this is part of the reason why that last little box fell off anyways. The one other thing you can see here, I just want to let you know, you see the 4 that are at 49.3, and then there's 49.6 and 49.8. Now, I had them all on the table, as you saw before. It was cold, man, in the shop, so we had an air blower going. Now, the 2 that are higher, the highest one is on the corner where the warm air is coming past first, and then the one that's a little bit lower but still higher than the rest is one on the side. All the ones that are the same and a little lower were the ones in the interior that weren't getting that warm air flowing by it, so they were more like ambient temperature for the shop. I don't know if there's any like theory or whatever behind that, but I just thought I'd let you know how that worked. So temperature variance for us in the cells did show up as a different nominal sitting voltages. Just like Jack has said, sometimes it's not always a good idea to make a guy like me, or I guess a guy like him, wait until he can play with the stuff that you made for him, but it's not really ready to play. So this is really great for our discrete units, but of course I needed to see what my full pack voltage is too. This is what happened after I turned on that contactor. This was my first oopsie. Ray had built me a nice little, you can see it here on the left, nice little distribution board, and I didn't hook up something completely right, or at least the 300 volt found a path through one of the, the 50 volt measuring units, and blew that stuff to kingdom come. So then that was another reminder for me, like, you cannot look at and not influence, and by looking at, you're risking doing stuff like this. So I figured, like, okay, let's not try and be smarter than the rest. If everything's out of balance and your total voltages work, let's forget about these separate voltages for now. After about dreaming for 2.5 years, getting parts, spending my money that you have, learning things, going to Jack, coming back, the deadline day that we really wanted to do this stuff by 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go into water, this is 1 o'clock in the morning of the next day. So we've got $30,000 into a boat, and we're not sure if the boat's leaky or not. We're definitely tired, and actually the wind's picking up, and is that a storm? But you know what? We've been waiting for 2.5 years. We're gonna test this baby. So we're out there at 1 o'clock in the morning, more tired than is good for you. And we're a little bit further back, and yeah, the water starts walking into the boat. There's definitely some underwater problems. So that really wasn't the smartest idea ever, but we just really wanted to get out there, right? Okay, now we go to what it looks like when you're in the boat in the water. Most people probably seen some videos, so I've cut this one down to 40-second introduction of what it's all really like. There's the sound coming, I'll put it on full screen. Do we get the whole, is it F11? Yeah, there we go. The old IT skills. There you go. Cool sound, huh? I love it. See, this is a speedboat. My wife. He knew something was coming, didn't know that was coming. Doesn't that look like fun? We were having fun. So we got the boat in the water, and surprise, surprise, you build a prototype, you expect to put it in the water and be back like a day later for another month of building. The boat's been in the water for 5 months, doesn't want to break a thing. Well, break our bones, but the boat itself is fine. So what kind of power do you need to take a speedboat through the water? There's only one boat, one prop setup, and not enough data to say anything conclusive. But we built the boat as a long-range cruiser because in Amsterdam, over 5 kilometers an hour, well, over 7 kilometers an hour, 5 miles an hour, you get ticketed toot sweet in the center of town. They really don't want you bumping around the boats there. So it's all slow-range cruising. Well, at the allowed 5 to 8 kilometers an hour, between the 1.2 and the 4 kilowatt, at the 1.2 level, I can do 20 hours of cruising through town. So there's not enough hours in the day to do that, right? We can power into town, cruise around 8 to 10 hours, no problem. Got enough power to power back out of town, and for the overnight, ready to do it again tomorrow. So with the boats, Jack's been saying, and it's true, once you're playing in, and we'll get to that in a point, you have this high continuous power draw that we didn't see in cars, which is something we have to deal with. But with boats, we have the other thing that you don't have with cars, that the range at slow speeds is still a viable range, because actually a lot of your use is going to be at those speeds. You power somewhere and then you cruise. So we have both ends of the spectrum. We're doing more kilowatts, but we also have an effective range at lower kilowatts. It's no use saying how far your car can go at 5 miles an hour. Nobody's ever going to do it. But for us, it really does make a difference. So you see the more of the classic at displacement speeds, when you're going through water, it's even worse than in air. You want to add a little bit of kilometers an hour, you add 3 times the kilowatts. A little bit more kilometers an hour, 3 times the kilowatts. Then at 3,250, we don't break water and get on plane. We jump out of the water, come back onto the plane. Now that's the moment that we have our peak power output. I've limited through the Salton setup. We can get about 137 kilowatts out of the batteries, and I've limited it 130 kilowatts to the motor. At that moment, at 3250 RPM, we are putting that out for a microsecond, and then it drops right back down because you've broken out of the water, and now your prop's getting a lot faster, and the kilowatt draw goes way down. So at 35 kilometers an hour, we only need 41 to 45 continuous, depending on like current conditions, to keep going at that speed. Now, 35 kilometers an hour, that's viable, like water skiing speed. You're happy. If you want to go barefoot, maybe a little faster. But we have 27 kilowatt hours on board. We can do about 30 to 40 minutes of this 35 kilometer an hour. That means with a couple of guys, 3 runs apiece, hey, nice boat, now I'm hungry. You got a morning of water skiing there. Put it on a 3-phase charger after a barbecue lunch, you'd be back out there. When you're going a little faster now you're going through your electrons real fast. At 47 to 55 kilometers an hour, it all depends on kind of current conditions. We're doing between 85 and 90 kilowatt continuous to the motor. Now, my motor's officially a 45 kilowatt motor, and even with the extra forced air cooling, I do not think that its duty cycle would be 90 kilowatts. My best thermal management option for that, limited battery power. Because at 90 kilowatts of output, I've got a max of 15 to 20 minutes of power in there. So that saves the motor, doesn't it? But it's really fun, I gotta say. 55 kilometers an hour in that old Glastron, that's fast in a boat. It's really cool. So that's kind of like the Glastron side of things and how we put that together. Jack had me really excited about the speeds of the water concept. More efficient form, more rigidity, maybe a different drive option. And I needed to tap into this other thing, the boat people that do have the money. And my James Bond boat is really great for the 30 to 40-year-olds that would love it but can't buy it. And we kind of need to have the more the speedster thing, which works and gears towards the crowd that would want it and could afford it. This is a 1966 Ray Wright Delta. It's a design that comes from the 50s. So maybe you've heard the company made Spitfires in the Second World War. After the war, there's no more German Luftwaffe to go after. They have all this perfectly hand-rolled aluminum. Well, there we go. And they decided to make speedboats, God love them. We found this one at Classic Boats Amsterdam, and we now have a little work together, deal with them. He has many, many beautiful boats, but they all need new engines, and those engines need more gas than anybody wants to put in them. I get to make like pictures of that and basically put them on my website. You want this one or that one, I can do this or that motor in it. So it gives me media and something to show and promise for like a conversion thing, and it gives him an opportunity to get some of these boats maybe out there that otherwise... This boat was sitting for 2.5 years, this Ray Wright Delta, even with a working engine. It's a beautiful find, but there's also a reason why it wasn't being used. We need to re-energize this market. But can you just, that boat behind, we bought this Ray Wright Delta for 5,000 euros. That boat behind is 350,000 euros. That's a Riva, and they're pretty cool, but there is a price range. So we got it in the shop. We had to get some baseline performance. This is the last time I wanted to ever do this. That's gas up the old boat. She looks really great. Kevin said this is the one we want. So yep. But there's also a lot of other cool ones there. This is an original Albatross. Let's see if we get that again. Ray Wright built it. Gas costs a lot of money. Oh yeah, the thing that after $7 a gallon that everybody's going to do electric, we got $10 a gallon. If it's incremental, we'll just bend over and pay, and nobody's got enough money anymore for batteries, so just keep paying. This is the Albatross originally, 50s and 60s model. Aircraft precision, light alloy construction. Your father's generation, my grandfather's generation, standing around. Aircraft style, pop riveting, and that kind of thing. And they go. They use it. This would be like a 4-seater version, which is cool. They also have the Chris Craft with the kind of like the Cadillac style wings there. It had a big V8 block, but I think some of you would enjoy this. It would make a really cool boat. This is why boats are girls, because from behind, otherwise we'd be in trouble. These lines are just too sexy. This is what it looks like when you're out there. So just let's go back for just 1 second. Some of you have seen this video, so I'll kind of skip through it. This is what the new Red Speedster looks like in the water.
Good morning. We are here at Classic Boats Amsterdam, picking up the Ray Wright Delta. Let's go and see what they're doing. That's not it. That's not it. Yay! There she is.
Kind of
Look
skipped
at
away
her.
doing the test. This is what we don't want to sound like anymore in the future. But this is how cool she looks when she's in the water.
See you on the moon.
That's way better outside. Get a little baseline. This is what she's going to look like and what she's not going to sound like. Now, who would like to do this? Isn't this fun? And then, of course, she overheated, and we had to...
So, like it is, wanted to know where it should be. Electric ends up winning the race and pulling poor old gasser back to court. Man, oh man. She was fun. She'll be a lot better electric.
There's another boat hanging around Amsterdam that's being sold in its original version, but is screaming to become an electric yacht. And I think you start doing this kind of thing and you let the right person play with it, they just gotta have it. And yes, we do also have a Fair Lady, Raymond's old car that has a blown V6, but we think we can maybe get our racing license with this if you have a double 11 and a lot of batteries on the rear axle. That's kind of it, guys. We've had so much fun this year, and that's really the aim of the game is for us to show how much fun you can have out there, and the more people that do it, the better it'll become. And I'll take any questions. Thank you a lot.
Oh, no, I've got about 30 questions.
Cool.
and then maybe I'll let somebody else in or something.
Right.
Guys, I'm sorry, this panel has worked out beyond my wildest hopes. I could sit here and do this all day, but we have some other stuff. I'd rather give myself a root canal with a pocket knife, but we're going to have to cut this off and do some other things this week. Thanks for being with us, and let's continue that dialogue. Back in got the marks in a roll, but we gotta move along. I'm trying to be a little more